The NBA All-Star break is now in the books. The Philadelphia 76ers are set to return to the court to decide the second half of their season. There's still plenty up in the air with this team, most notably with the status of Joel Embiid. We have some positive updates today about the potential return to the floor for the big fella that I cannot wait to dive into. Let's jump in and begin with this report from Ramona Shelburne here. She was on NBA Today, and she said that Joel Embiid attended the team practice yesterday as the organization remains optimistic about his return before the playoffs, saying, quote, "The Sixers don't want to put any time frame on it until he starts ramping up, but I'm told he went to practice. He got there early to see how everyone was in the morning. His enthusiasm is there." As I always like to mention, Ramona Shelburne is one of the more plugged-in national reporters when it comes to Joel Embiid, that each of these guys have different relationships with members of the media, and there is a little bit of a pattern that you can pick up for how information leaks out, and Ramona, to her credit, has always been one of the first ones on the spot when there is news regarding Joel Embiid. This coming throughout different circumstances with different leaks, different reports, all these things, but she is someone connected to the Embiid camp, and I do think it is worth noting that she is the one bringing this to the table. There also is another quote here that I wanted to get into, in which she says, quote, "There's an optimism in Philadelphia that Joel Embiid can return at some point during the regular season, at least close enough to the playoffs to get his rhythm heading into the playoffs. But the Sixers don't want to put any time frame on it until he starts ramping up. But I'm told that he went to practice yesterday. He got there early to see how everyone was in the morning. His enthusiasm is there." So just a little more in depth than the original quote. And the most notable storyline here, obviously, being that Joel Embiid is back in the building with his teammates in Philadelphia, and that if there was the expectation that he would not be returning to Florida this year, that simply would not be happening. So for me, this is a huge sign of progress. Now, we still don't have much of a concrete timetable for what he's looking at. The Sixers are going to continue to keep things close to the vest, but I will note, as far as the original timeline, and once again, shout out to Sixers Galaxy for all these tweets, one of my favorite Twitter follows across the Sixer universe, but he tweeted out some of these key dates here. The All-Star break occurred from February 15th to February 21st, just wrapping up now. 4 weeks from the initial tear would be March 6th. 6 weeks would be March 19th. 8 weeks would be April 2nd, and the start of playoffs would be April 20th. So there is some room under that timeline for him to make a return. At this point, if they are sticking to that original timeline, which we've had no news about one way or another, that would suggest that they would be reevaluating him with about 2 weeks from now. So we're about 2 weeks into the first 4 weeks of the recovery period, and at that point, hopefully there's a more concrete idea for how his ramp-up process could take. And as far as the outlook from there, it's very dependent on what level these Sixers are at. That I've very much been open in my mindset that I think this is a bit of a two-way street. That I think Joel Embiid and these Sixers are going to evaluate where the team is as well as where he is. That obviously the priority is his health, making sure from a long-term standpoint that you aren't sacrificing everything, that this guy is ready and healthy enough to play basketball if he is making any sort of return to the floor. And then from the Sixers side of things, it has to be worth it that they have a fighting chance for Embiid to come return to the floor. That it makes no sense to force him back if this is a team that is sliding down the standings, has a grim playoff outlook, and simply looks like they just don't have enough to contend with some of these Eastern Conference teams. So I was curious. I wanted to get a deeper dive into what their seeding kind of outlook would be heading into the playoffs. Obviously, that we are through the All-Star break, 50-plus games into the season, that we have a pretty good look at the table. And to lay out what these standings officially are, Sixers sitting there in the 5th seed with their 32-22 record. I do want to note that they just a half game behind the Knicks for that 4th seed, who are 33-22. The Bucks and Celtics and Cavs have a little bit of distance up there that the Sixers would need to make up 3 games to climb into that number 3 seed. But looking below them, which I think is the greater concern, the Pacers sitting 2 games back, the Heat 2.5 games back, the Magic 2.5 games back, and then a pretty notable gap to that Chicago Bulls seed. They're 17 games out of first place, 6.5 behind the Sixers for that 5th seed there. Really, the teams to worry about are that 6, 7, 8 seed, that Pacers team, Heat team, and Magic. And for the sake of these playoffs, I do think it should be a huge priority for these Sixers to just hover above that 6th seed, that making sure you don't slip into that play-in mix where you have to scrap your way into fighting a top seed in the opening round. It's just not a spot that they want to put themselves in. So this is on the Tyrese Maxey's and Buddy Hield, everyone else on the team, to step up and create enough offense for them to just remain afloat during this time. Now, I tried to project forward and get some odds and just look at what the chances are for what their playoff outlook is. I'm going to dive into 2 different resources that I found here, one through Basketball Reference and one through PlayoffStatus.com. I frankly don't really agree with either of these odds here, that I think it's somewhere in the middle of both of them, but I did want to dive into the perspective. So I'll start off with Basketball Reference, which to me is the more legitimate source and something that I use for quite a bit of my statistical analysis. But they're looking at the playoff chances here. As I mentioned, the Sixers currently sitting in 5th place, and by their calculations, that they have a 2% chance at securing the second seed, an 18.1% chance of climbing to that 3rd seed, a 23% chance of securing the 4th seed, an 18.4% chance of the 6th seed, and I skipped over a 24.4% chance for the 5th seed, just an 8.1% chance of the 7th seed, and a 4.1% chance at that 8th seed. So according to the Basketball Reference calculation, the Sixers have an 85.9% chance of remaining in that top 6 seeds. I do think that's a little overly optimistic and a little high based on that calculations. Once again, to pull up the specific standings here, that would mean only one of the Pacers, Heat, and Magic are a team that passes them. And I will admit, I'm not that concerned about things. That I do think there's very much a high chance of the Heat getting hot in the second half and being the team that passes them. But if that's just one, that's okay. They're looking below these. The Pacers are a team that started incredibly hot this season, but 5-5 in their last 10 leading up to the All-Star break. I think there have been more growing pains with figuring out how to incorporate Pascal Siakam to their style of play than most expected to be the case. Tyrese Halliburton looks like he's fully healthy finally again after he battled that hamstring injury for a little bit. But I will say that's still a young team, still early on in the career arc. I do believe they find their ticket into the dance and find a way to make the playoffs, but I don't know if they overtake the Sixers for the 6th seed. And then that Orlando Magic team, very talented, very young. I think that they need to make some sacrifices for trading talent for fit. I think they're at that level of their progression as a team that when you look at kind of how this roster is constructed, they have a lot of talent with the Franz Wagners, the Paolo Bancheros, even their slew of guards with Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, all these guys that make an impact, but it feels like the pieces don't quite fit together. I don't think they have enough shooting. Gary Harris has had a little bit of a down year and struggled for them this year. Joe Ingles doesn't quite get the burn or provide enough floor spacing for this team to be adequate. And when they have enough big men that are rotating around, the Wendell Carters, the Jonathan Isaacs, they have a ton of talent on this team. But I just think that they, from a just standpoint of repetition on roster, they have a little bit too much, that they are better served flipping some pieces and building a more well-rounded roster for next year. I think that is going to shoot them in the foot for some opportunities down the stretch, and a reason why I don't see them climbing into those top 6 seeds. But I also wanted to note from PlayoffStatus.com, their chances and their odds for their outlook for the Sixers playoff seeding look vastly different. So to pull this one up here, according to, once again, PlayoffStatus.com, they have the Sixers, of course, with a 32-22 record, 54 games in, less than a 1% chance at climbing the 1 seed, fair there, 4% chance at the 2 seed, a 12% chance at the 3 seed, 16% chance at the 4 seed, 18% chance at the 5 seed, 18% chance at the 6 seed, a 17% chance at the 7 seed, and a 14% chance at the 8 seed. They also give them a 2% chance at the 9 seed, and then less than 1% for 10 seed, and less than 1% and not making the playoffs. So based on this combination there, they're giving me a 31% chance of landing in that 7 or 8 seed. I'll even bump it up to the 33% chance to fall into the play-in. So I still think that's a little overly pessimistic there, that I don't think that there's that high of a chance that them giving a 33% chance of them falling into the play-in. I think that's a little more fair than the Basketball Reference, that I think it's having an over 85% chance of them staying in the top 6. To me, seems a little overly optimistic, but I do think that the real odds are somewhere in the middle of both these lists. The bottom line is it is on the Sixers to step up and win a couple games that they probably should. That we're going to have an opportunity to see what is Tyrese Maxey truly made of as a number 1 option. We will get the additional firepower that Buddy Hield will provide. That was not the case through the first stretch without Joel Embiid before those 4 games leading up before the All-Star break. So there is reasons to be optimistic about this team. You have a clearer idea or clearer concept that the big fella is likely coming back. That, to me, is worthwhile news and something that should change things from the team perspective, that you're not just figuring out how do you generate this for the length of the season. You're in that clench and hold on and wait for him to come home, that you know that the light is at the end of the tunnel. He will be returning to the team, and I think this is the first time that I'm feeling fully confident about that this is the first time that all signs are pointing towards things. There's still a ways to go in the recovery process, and of course, you can't rule up the chance of something flaring up in the return to process just standpoint if he does injure something or something doesn't feel quite right or healed as was expected. Those things are all still on the table, but the fact that he's already back in the organization, meeting with the team, being around team activities, being a part of the scheme, and I know that Buddy Hield even mentioned and campaign as well that some of the film that he's been sent to study, it's stuff that includes sets for Joel Embiid, that everything is building for this team with the expectation that he will return to the floor. This Sixers team is much different and just will never reach its level of ceiling without obviously the MVP of the league on this team. But I still want to float out there the glass half full outlook of the best case scenario, the best path to a successful playoff run by Joel Embiid may very well be him getting hurt when he got hurt. That if he heals up for this 6 to 8 week period, returns for a 2-week ramp up period, and then gets ready to go on a playoff tear, that could be the best route for the Sixers team. We will see if that ultimately happens, but I am intrigued and excited that all signs tend to be pointing towards that occurring. We'll see what level he's at. All these other questions are still to be answered, but for the moment, this should be a sigh of relief. This is a good sign for the Sixers universe, and I am excited about where things will go from here. Thank you for you guys for tuning into this video. Make sure that you are smashing that subscribe button, keeping the Sixers Digest family growing. Drop a like and let me know your thoughts about the status of Joel Embiid overall. When do you think he will possibly return to the court? Are you as optimistic as I am, or am I getting a little ahead of myself on this? Regardless, let it rip in the comments, smash that subscribe button, and I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest.